As the global race for influence in Central Asia heats up, Turkey is positioning itself to be a key player in the region long dominated by Russia and now China. Having historical, linguistic, and cultural bonds, Ankara is looking to tap the region's vast energy reserves and growing demand for infrastructure. Turkey already has a $10 billion bilateral trade target just with Kazakhstan. And right next door, Turkish company investments in Uzbekistan exceed $1.5 billion. In June, Turkish Vice President Cevdet Yilmaz urged Turkish business people to make investments, especially in Uzbekistan's energy, electronics, and agriculture sectors. As for Kyrgyzstan, Ankara and Bishkek have been working to create a Kyrgyz-Turkish Investment Fund to finance large infrastructure projects. Turkish firms are also heavily involved in building part of Kazakhstan's transport network, and those investments are set to increase. In May, Turkish Foreign Minister Fidan said the newly established Turkic Investment Fund by the OTS states would bring more economic integration across Central Asia. And for more on Turkey's business ties with Central Asia, joining me now from Beijing is Christopher Campbell-Holt. He's the CEO of the Astana International Financial Center Court and International Arbitration Committee. Christopher, thank you for joining me. Now, Central Asia, a very important and up-and-coming economic space, especially for countries like China, Türkiye, the EU, and the US. You're in Kazakhstan most of the time. I'd like to know about the key sectors that Turkish businesses should be concentrating and investing in Kazakhstan and also the broader Central Asia region.
Thank you very much, firstly, for inviting me onto your program, and secondly, to attempt to answer your questions. I've lived in Kazakhstan now for nearly 8 years. We built an international commercial center court at the Astana International Financial Center and an arbitration center. And I can tell you from firsthand experience of managing those cases on a day-to-day basis that Turkish business is particularly strong in construction matters, energy and mining in particular. And we do see frequently Turkish investors in Kazakhstan utilizing our facility as a part of the Trust and Confidence Initiative to bring more investment to Kazakhstan.
Mm-hmm. Now, there's a lot of other countries interested as well in Kazakhstan. How do you see the competition between the major players, and who are the major players there?
Well, I think from what we see, again, through our day-to-day practices is a genuine interest in investing in Kazakhstan. And I think this is the result of a very proactive, carefully thought through strategy by the country and the country's leadership for many years now to develop business initiatives, attractive business incentives to attract more investment into Kazakhstan. I think this all leads well towards further cooperation generally in the region at all levels, but specifically at the business angle. And there are growing opportunities, particularly in manufacturing, agriculture, logistics, and the likes. I think Kazakhstan has managed to position itself very well as a vital hub within the Belt and Road Initiative, for example, and within the Turkic states generally in the region as a hub for business and for a place that can be trusted for investors. We are seeing significant investment, as you all know, I'm sure, into Kazakhstan from Turkish businesses. I understand that Turkey is one of the key trading partners with Kazakhstan, but we see significant growth in recent years from investment coming from China and from other parts of the region, including from further fields afar around the world as well. So we've generally seen Kazakhstan become a really serious hub for business and for cooperation for the whole of the Central Asia region. And I would suggest that from what we're seeing, at least in terms of our project in the AIFC Court and Arbitration Center, that there is a growing trend of more business coming from a wider base of potential investment countries.
How supportive would you say are the Central Asian nations regarding investment? And also, I want to ask you about local workforce. Obviously, anyone looking for medium to long-term investments will want to see a skilled local workforce. Are you seeing that workforce being trained for the future to be competitive?
Without a doubt, 100%, I would agree with that. Kazakhstan has a highly skilled workforce. It has for many years. And if I may say so, I am very familiar, as you would expect, I hope, after 8 years of living and working in the region of Central Asia and wider Eurasia. The skilled workforce in Kazakhstan is second to none in the region. I mean, there's just no question about that. There has been a high focus on education initiatives, both in Kazakhstan, throughout the region, and globally. There is the Bolshak scheme, which has been around for many years. It's been incredibly successful, with tens of thousands of Kazakh young bright minds traveling the world to gain the best possible knowledge. And then there's been a whole series of mentorship programs.
Out of all the projects that you're seeing, whether they're actively being developed right now or in the pipeline, which one excites you the most, and how much will the middle corridor change the region?
Really, I think first we see the construction initiatives, obviously not just in Kazakhstan but throughout the whole region. I think that's very exciting because it's physical evidence of the infrastructure developments and the size of the investments that are coming in. And then, of course, there's taxes and all the rest of it, which relates, we hope, to overall social welfare improvement. But really, it's the Trans-Caspian International Transport Corridor, which personally I find most exciting. I think the promise to bring the world together through Kazakhstan and the wider Central Asia region with an efficient transport and logistics operations base, it's already there. But I think the potential to make that more stable, strategic, growth orientated for the long-term future for Turkish investors, but also for everybody else in the region, has enormous potential. And we see the signs of that, I think, in most of our countries in Central Asia, just in everyday life. So I'm most excited about that. Just bringing it back to my court and arbitration centre, if I may briefly, the potential is seen also through the disputes work that we receive on a regular basis, because it's all related to the construction matters. That plus, of course, renewables, which is growing. I think a lot more can be done on renewables, and a lot more needs to be done, not just for investment purposes, but for climate and for global commitments as well. Kazakhstan, as I think everybody knows, has committed to reducing its CO2 emissions considerably by 2050, and we all hope that it will be on its path, and that development of further renewables in the region will assist Kazakhstan, but also the wider region.
You know, this region was obviously a Soviet region over 3 decades ago, before getting its independence. How do you see Chinese penetration into this region that has been dominated by Russia for over a century, and how much of a factor will that be going forward for the business environment, positive or negative?
Well, the signs so far are extremely positive in my personal view. We all read the reports that China is investing significant sums increasingly into Central Asia. I understand that Uzbekistan has received about $15 billion US. I'm told recently, as yesterday on my promotional trip for our court and arbitration centre in Beijing, that Kazakhstan has now attracted more than $45 billion US. There are recent exchanges between the political leaders of these countries. We see considerable investment into the construction projects, into all different types of investments from China into Kazakhstan. And I think that's very exciting. It's very exciting because it provides more access to services and to goods. It enables more technological developments, and it enables, I believe, swifter, more efficient development, not only of economies, but also of infrastructure, significant infrastructure that is now and will, for the long term, be required to assist the Central Asian region to really capitalize upon its Trans-Caspian international transport potential. So I see it as being very exciting from a business perspective, and the results are already starting to show fruits.
Do you see a potential for the Turks and the Chinese to be able to cooperate from a business perspective in Central Asia?
Well, I think we would all hope so. There already is significant cooperation if you look at the individual countries, or at least some of the individual countries. I've already mentioned the importance on the relationships between Kazakhstan and China. That seems to be reflected in other countries, Uzbekistan, as I've already mentioned, and others in the Central Asia region. And from what I've sensed, and again, I'm not a political figure, I'm an independent lawyer, but from what I see from a lawyer business perspective, the signs are extremely encouraging for further cooperation, which I understand we all hear is happening. And we look forward to seeing the results of that from a business investment initiative. I can tell you now, I'm in Beijing. We're speaking all this week at China Arbitration Week to promote what we do. And the Chinese investors are extremely excited to be coming to Central Asia with their investments. And they're looking at all manner of investments, not just construction or energy, but they're looking for new innovative ways to invest their funds in the Central Asia region. With good intentions as proper good faith investors.
Now, we've talked about the Turks, the Chinese, the Russians, but we really haven't talked about the West. Is the US and the EU absent? Is the risk appetite not there? Or are they investing just on a smaller scale from what you're seeing?
Well, actually, I think if you look historically, particularly in the last 5 to 10 years, you would see that there's been, and there continues to be, very significant foreign direct investment, FDI, into Kazakhstan from investors from the US, from the UK, from throughout the European Union, Western Europe, Germany especially. These are key trading partner countries with Kazakhstan and other countries within the Central Asia region. I'd see no reason why that won't continue. There are considerable investments already in play. The embassies in Kazakhstan from those countries are very proactive at every possible level. And again, through our Court and Arbitration Centre, when we see disputes, sometimes they do involve parties from those countries. I'm happy to say it's quite rare, but that is the case.
Christopher Campbell-Holt, thank you for joining me from Beijing and enlightening us on investments in Central Asia. And that's all for this edition of Straight Talk with me, Yusuf Aram. If you got any comments, please share them with us on X at Straight Talk TRT. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Until next time, take care and goodbye.